Heya Cryptozens, it's 10 p.m. Pacific time. My name is Nikodemus, and welcome back to the Crypto Overnighter, where we take a nightly look at the crypto, NFT, and metaverse space. And keep in mind, nothing in this show should ever be considered financial advice. It's November 27th, 2022, 10 o'clock p.m. Pacific time. Here we go. Vladimir Putin made a return to crypto news. The Russian president is unhappy with the current state of things, specifically the near monopoly of the global payment systems. In addition, he called for an independent blockchain settlement network. Now, he was speaking at the International AI Journey Conference in Moscow when he said a new system of international settlements could be created that would be more convenient and safe for its users and would be resistant to the actions of third-party countries. He said, quote, "I'm confident that something like this will certainly be created and will develop because nobody likes the dictate of monopolists, which is harming all parties, including the monopolists themselves." Now, he's understandably not a big fan of the sanctions leveled against him and his country. And while he noted the financial difficulty that Russia's aggression against Ukraine has had on global payments, he called these sanctions, quote, "illegitimate restrictions." He said, "The existing system of international payments is expensive. The system of its correspondent accounts and regulation are controlled by a narrow club of states and financial groups." Note that this comes right after the Duma announced that they were looking at amendments to their existing crypto legislation, and that after the Duma also introduced a bill that would let Russian citizens mine crypto and then sell the proceeds of their mining. Anatoly Askakov is the chairman of the Duma Financial Markets Committee. Askakov said that the passage of the law will, quote, "bring this activity into the legal field and make it possible to form a law enforcement practice on issues related to the issuance and circulation of digital currencies." Now let's go from the streets of Moscow to the streets of New York, because New York City Mayor Adams has a problem. You see, he promised that he was going to turn New York into a crypto hub. This was before New York Governor Kathy Hochul signed a new law. That new law bans proof-of-work mining for at least 2 years. Now, we do know that Mayor Adams did say that he was going to ask the governor to veto the bill, which was clearly less than successful. And that means if Adams wants to turn NYC into the crypto capital of the world, he's going to have to figure out how to work with these legislators. Now, he was speaking with the New York Daily News when he said, quote, "I'm going to work with the legislators who are in support and those who have concerns, and I believe we're going to come to a great meeting place." Now, personally, I'm just not as optimistic, because this proof-of-work mining ban is a big deal. Now, first, it stops new businesses from setting up shop. It also means the refusal of licenses for already operating businesses. Now, presently, the U.S. is the world leader for Bitcoin hash rate. The United States produces 37.8% of the world's hash rate. A 2-year ban on mining just Bitcoin will really hurt the state of New York. Now, throw all the other coins mined by proof of work, New York is just going to struggle to keep up, much less become a crypto hub, the importance of which is not lost on Mayor Adams. He said, quote, "We must become a welcoming place for all technology, and crypto is part of the overall technology we're looking at. The question is, how do we make smart choices so that New York City and America is a leader in this new technology?" Personally, I would remind the mayor that New York has the strictest exchange rules in the country. They instituted the BIT license scheme in 2015. Now, BIT license is for crypto organizations, and it has been criticized as being overly hostile to crypto, which means that New York would have to compete with Texas, because their governor seems to have a much different opinion on Bitcoin than Governor Hochul does. Texas Governor Gov Abbot was recently quoted as saying that Bitcoin is good for the power grid. He said, quote, "We are promoting Bitcoin, we are advancing it, and we are providing a platform for it. Bitcoin is the cutting edge of innovation in the world." And like Mayor Adams, Governor Abbott wants his state to become a crypto hub. He said that he knows the potential represented by Bitcoin and what it means for the world. The governor said that he wants Texas to play a major role in all that. He said that Texas represents a place for people who are active in Bitcoin. It gives them somewhere to meet and work together. when he was asked what Texas is doing to advance crypto, Abbot said that the state has established a number of regulations to make it easier to mine Bitcoin. Further, he said Texas has established a working group to take a look at what kind of legislation is needed to make Texas even more accommodating to the Bitcoin industry. Now, one of the things that he brought up was that the power grid in Texas is open and independent. Now, most states have their power in a single utility program for the region, because there are two things at present that seem to be making Texas more attractive for Bitcoin. In addition to the welcoming nature of Bitcoin-friendly Texas lawmakers, Texas also is abundant in terms of natural resources. Now, incidentally, Abbott doesn't seem too concerned about the collapse of FTX. He did, however, call out his opponent Beto O'Rourke for a large donation from Sam Bankman-Fried, demanding that any politicians that took money from SBF should return it. Now, from Texas, let's turn our attention northward to our friends in Canada. One of their trading platforms is having some issues. Coinsquare is the first Canadian trading platform to be registered by the Investment Industry Regulatory Organization of Canada. Now, sadly, they suffered a data breach, which saw users' personal information made vulnerable. However, they insist customer assets are, quote, secure in cold storage and are not at risk. Now, ironically, Coinsquare bills itself as, quote, Canada's trusted platform to securely buy, sell, and trade Bitcoin, Ethereum, and more. Well, they had to email their customers to report a data incident, as they call it. They said an unauthorized third party had accessed a customer database, that this database held things like, quote, customer names, email addresses, residential addresses, phone numbers, dates of birth, device IDs, public wallet addresses, transaction history, and account balances. So they sent this email out on the 25th, even though the breach was discovered last week and had even been reported on Twitter. So if you're one of Coinsquare's Twitter customers, you knew about the breach. If you're not on Twitter, you may not have found out until that email was sent. At any rate, they said that passwords were not exposed during the breach. When Coinsquare detected it, they shut operations down, which of course prompted rumors of Coinsquare having liquidity issues. And with all the mess going around with FTX, who can blame them? Now, as it turns out, customer funds are reportedly safe. Full service was restored again with a tweet on Friday. Quote, we want to reiterate that 100% of client funds are safely held in cold storage and are not used for business activities. Circle came out with a warning today. The producer of USDC brings word of an active phishing campaign where scammers pretend to work for Center. Now, Center is a consortium put together by Circle and Coinbase. Now, unfortunately, they were forced to issue a statement letting everybody know that there is no new version of USDC. Quote, PSA warning. There is an active phishing campaign attempting to lure users into transferring USDC tokens to malicious addresses. The scammers are pretending to be from Center. There is not a new version of USDC in the marketplace. Please do not fall for this. Jeremy Allaire is Circle's CEO and founder, and he has been pressuring lawmakers, writing the congressional leaders for financial services, pleading for clear, working legislation on stablecoins. He warns that continuing to fail to provide that legislation is going to continue to attract more scams and scammers. So what happens in this case is the scammer is using Azure Web Services. Now, this runs a network of phishing sites set up to bring victims in through phishing messages. These messages are made to look like fake transaction requests. Now, speaking of scams, I just heard about this one. Blockchain security expert Certic tells us there's a large group of professional know your customer actors. So if you're a morally impaired leader of a suspect product, you might hire these actors to complete your KYC process on your behalf, and then use those faked credentials to power your rug pull. Lots of scams out there. Be vigilant. Joseph Borg is the Securities Commission Director for the state of Alabama. He is one of the state regulators looking into Genesis Global Capital to determine if any wrongdoing took place. According to a report from Barron's, Borg indicates that his agency, as well as those from other states, are involved in these investigations. They're looking into whether or not Genesis persuaded the residents of those states to invest in crypto securities despite not having the proper registration. That said, Borg didn't specify which states were joining him. Now, this comes after Genesis reports that they hired an investment bank to look into their options, including bankruptcy. This comes after the crypto lender failed to recover from its exposure to two failed projects. One was the crypto exchange FTX, and the other was the crypto hedge fund Three Arrows Capital. So Genesis has been working much of the month of November to find fresh capital. They need either more money or more time from their creditors. Things have gotten more dire since last week, as they had to halt redemptions and new loan originations. And keep in mind, Genesis still has $175 million locked on FTX's exchange. Now, if, like Genesis Global, you're an FTX creditor, your anonymity may be secure. Maybe. At least for now. Now, keep in mind what happened when Celsius went belly up. Crypto Twitter had a field day going through the records and seeing who was a Celsius customer and how much they'd invested. Well, a federal judge has granted a request to keep the creditors list anonymous. That said, Judge John Dorsey did note that some of the anonymity may be stripped away in the near future. He said, quote, "On an interim basis, I'll enter the order allowing for the redaction of the names and addresses. Everyone in the room knows the internet is wrought with potential dangers." And I think people get that, at least as far as the individuals go. Nobody needs to know that your great Aunt Lucy lost $5,000 to FTX. Benjamin Hackman is an attorney for the U.S. Trustee's Office. He said, quote, "We oppose the redaction of the names and addresses of customers who are not individuals. There should be transparency about who these entities are, especially on the top 50 list." Now, to be fair, typically a creditor list is made public during bankruptcy proceedings in the United States. That said, lawyers for the FTX Empire have argued against that. They are in favor of keeping as much information as secret as possible. Interestingly, it's not due to privacy concerns, or at least not just that, but the company also views the list itself as an asset. Brian Gluckstein is a partner with Sullivan and Cromwell, and they are the firm representing FTX in this bankruptcy. He argues, quote, "The debtor's customer list, numbering in the millions, is an asset of the estate. Public release of the customer list would give the debtor's competitors a free opportunity to poach the debtor's customers and would interfere with the ability to sell assets and maximize value as these cases progress." That said, the unredacted list will be available to U.S. Trustee's Office on a confidential basis. Another hearing on the matter is expected for next month. And finally, Variety magazine reports that Hollywood executives are interested in the FTX story, some seeing it as the spiritual successor to films about the failures of TradFi. 2 weeks after the collapse of FTX Empire, and Variety already has confirmation that a show is in the works. Jennifer Salke is the head of Amazon Studios. She said that there is a documentary series in the works and that it would involve directors who have already worked with Amazon in the past. She said, quote, "We are excited to be able to continue our great working relationship with David, Joe, Anthony, and the Agbo team with this fascinating event series. I can't think of better partners to bring this multifaceted story to our global Prime viewer audience." Now, according to Variety, the Russo brothers and David Weil are already under contract. Weil will be in charge of writing and producing the pilot, while the Russo brothers will be producing the rest of the series. When contacted for comment, the Russo brothers acknowledged that this is a very complicated case. They indicate that they want to expose the whole thing to the public. Quote, "This is one of the most brazen frauds ever committed. It crosses many sectors: celebrity, politics, academia, tech, criminality, drugs, sex, and the future of modern finance. At the center of it sits an extremely mysterious figure with complex and potentially dangerous motivations. We want to understand why." The plan is for the show to last 8 episodes. Allegedly, it's going to be based on insider reporting as well as testimony from journalists at the heart of the implosion. And while we know that production is slated to start in the spring of next year, we still don't have a title. And in continuing fallout from the implosion of FTX, we have MakerDAO. They're the issuers of DAI, a decentralized stablecoin. And this week, they passed a unanimous resolution to dump renBTC as a form of reserve collateral. Given its relationship to Alameda Research, the DAO feels it's just too risky. The vote was 75,000 to 0. Nobody abstained, nobody objected. They said, quote, considering the acquisition of the Ren project by Alameda Research and the recently bankruptcy of the latter, the Ren development team disabled the Ren network mints. And so November 18th marks the start of the 30-day period before Ren 1.0 starts to shut down. Ren is a bridge protocol used to transfer digital assets between blockchains, like Bitcoin to Ethereum. It works kind of like a stablecoin in that way. And in fact, MakerDAO was holding renBTC as part of their basket of reserves, which includes USDC and Ethereum. Ren was acquired by Alameda Research earlier this year, and as such has been receiving funding from them on a quarterly basis. And I think that's going to do it for us tonight. I want to thank you, my listeners, because when you stop listening, I will stop talking. We'll see you tomorrow night.